It's already over. Drake doesn't know it yet, but the paper that just slipped out of his own building just handed Kendrick Lamar the entire West Coast on a silver platter. And the wildest part? Drake's own lawyer signed it. Now listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to walk you through tonight is not the kind of story your average hip-hop channel will ever touch. This is not the kind of story that's going to show up on cable news. This is not the kind of story the OVO machine ever wanted leaving the building. And it is definitely not the kind of story Drake's PR team was prepared to wake up to. Because somewhere, inside that quiet little Toronto fortress, a single legal document slipped through the cracks. And the moment somebody outside the building actually sat down and read it, the entire balance of the Drake versus Kendrick war silently flipped. Quietly, surgically, without a single bar being dropped. No diss track, no interview, no statement, just paper. And the paper did all the damage. So before we go 1 inch deeper, do me a favor and smash that like button. Hit subscribe and turn the notifications on, because the further we walk into this paperwork, the messier it's about to get for the sixth god. And trust me, you are not ready for what's written on page whatever it is. Allegedly. I'm being careful with my wording for legal reasons of my own, but trust me, by the time we get to the third act of this breakdown, you are going to understand exactly why every other channel is too scared to touch this story. Let me set the scene. Within the last 10 days or so, a filing tied to one of the Drake-aligned legal entities ended up in a place it was never supposed to end up. And I want to be specific about this, because Drake's operation is not one company, it's a constellation. There's OVO, there's the management shells, there's the corporate names floating in the background that even hardcore fans have never heard of. The whole thing is structured like a maze, and the maze exists for one very specific reason: to make sure documents exactly like this one never reach the public conversation. But this one did, and the second it did, somebody read it the way it was supposed to be read. Carefully, twice, line by line. And what they found inside that filing, honestly, if I'm telling you the truth, it's the loudest unforced error the Drake side has produced since the night Not Like Us first detonated on streaming. Bigger than the Adidon moment, bigger than the snippet leaks, bigger than the Metro fallout. This one is structural. This one is permanent. Now here's where it gets dangerous for OVO, because the filing on the outside looks completely boring. It looks like the kind of routine protective paperwork any major label machine would draft when they think they need to lock something down. Drake's people clearly thought this was a quiet move. They clearly thought nobody would read it carefully. They clearly thought it would disappear into a database. They were wrong, because hidden inside the legal language, buried in a paragraph that probably took 30 seconds to draft, is a confession. A written, signed, notarized confession of what they cannot touch. And Kendrick fans, sit down for this part, because the paragraph, in trying to define everything OVO wanted to restrain, accidentally defined everything OVO cannot legally restrain. Read that again. They drew a fence, and then, in their own paperwork, they accidentally marked every single piece of land outside that fence as untouchable. PG Lang territory, TDE territory, vault territory, catalog responses, future deployments, surprise drops, visual content, references, allegedly the whole map. All of it sitting in a zone Drake's lawyers, by their own writing, admitted they cannot reach. That is not a small problem for the sixth god. That is a strategic catastrophe written in their own ink, on their own letterhead, with their own signatures. The kind of paragraph that 10 years from now is still going to be quoted in courtroom training manuals as the worst single moment in a major label legal apparatus this decade. And now the obvious question becomes, how? How does a legal team with the kind of budget Drake commands produce a piece of paper that does the exact opposite of what it was meant to do? And here's the part that I think the hip-hop community is genuinely sleeping on. Because the honest answer is not that Drake's lawyers are bad at their jobs. They're not. The honest answer is that Drake's lawyers have been forced to operate at a tempo no legal team on earth was designed to handle. They are tired. They are panicking. They are working triple shifts. And panic always produces typos. Always. Think about what the OVO legal apparatus has been doing for the last 60 days. They've been chasing leaks, they've been chasing vault rumors, they've been chasing whispers about Kendrick's deployment timing, they've been chasing chart manipulation claims, defamation theories, label grievances, label power plays, streaming irregularities, and every single one of those fires had to be put out without producing a single document that itself becomes ammunition for the other side. That is an impossible workload. And when you stack an impossible workload on top of a panicking legal team, eventually language slips. Eventually, a paragraph survives into a final filing because nobody had the time to slow down and ask the one question that should have been asked, which was, does the language we're using to lock the other side in actually lock the other side out of our reach? Nobody asked that question. Nobody had time to ask it. So the paragraph made it in, and now it's public, forever, searchable, screenshotable, permanent. And let me paint a picture of what I genuinely believe happened on the Kendrick side once that filing became visible. I want you to picture this. PG Lang, TDE, Interscope. The legal team sits down at a long table. Somebody pulls the filing up on a shared screen. They start reading, line by line, and as they hit that one paragraph, the room goes silent. Not the loud kind of silent, the dangerous kind. The kind of silence that only happens when professionals realize the other side has just gift-wrapped something they had no business gift-wrapping. Within 24 hours, allegedly, internal Kendrick Communications had a revised vault deployment roadmap on the table. A roadmap that took into account the new, much narrower legal exposure Drake himself had just created, in writing, for free, without being asked, without being threatened, just handed over like a Christmas gift in November. You understand what that means? OVO did the West Coast's strategic mapping for them, on the public record, without being asked. They drew the lines. They marked the boundaries. They wrote out in their own letterhead exactly where Kendrick can step and exactly where they cannot challenge him. There is no industry on this planet where you survive professionally after producing that kind of accidental gift to your enemy. None. Zero. And the most insane part? The people inside the room when this filing was approved are still showing up to work like nothing happened, allegedly. Hold on, before we go any further, I want you to do something for me. Comment the word exposed below if you've already caught the energy shift in this story, because the second half is where things really get loud, and I am about to drop something in the next 2 minutes that I have not seen any other channel on this platform say out loud. Now, let's talk about something nobody is saying out loud. The last 60 days for Drake have been just genuinely an embarrassing run.
And I mean that with no exaggeration. Look at the receipts. You had Drake trying to push another snippet rollout to manufacture cultural relevance. The timeline laughed. You had Drake trying to engineer chart placement through promotional bundling. He still got visibly outpaced by a Kendrick Lamar who isn't even running a campaign. Read that again. Kendrick isn't even campaigning, and he's still on Drake's neck. You had Drake's camp leaking, counter-leaking, baiting, trying to bait responses from a West Coast that simply will not take the bait. And then, to cap it all off, you had Drake's own lawyers in the middle of that panic hand the other side a written confession that an enormous portion of Kendrick's future catalog is sitting in untouchable territory. There is no version of these 60 days where OVO comes out looking like the smarter operation. There hasn't been a version of that for a very long time, and insiders know it, allegedly. The people inside that Toronto building are not stupid. They see the pattern. They just can't say it out loud yet. Now here's the part that I think actually matters for the bigger picture. Forget the filing for a second. Let's talk about what this whole episode tells us about the limits of the Drake playbook itself. For more than a decade, Drake's machine has run on one pattern. And in plain English, the pattern is this. When the music isn't winning, deploy the institutional muscle, deploy the label leverage, deploy the media relationships, deploy the legal machinery. Use those instruments as a deterrent. Keep the cultural conversation pointed in directions that flatter Drake. Bury the directions that don't. That pattern worked for a long time. It worked because the opponents weren't built for it. They were independent, underfunded, underlawyered. They didn't have a major label umbrella standing behind them. That pattern ate Meek alive. That pattern outlasted Pusha. That pattern silenced Common, Joe Budden, and a dozen others, until it didn't. But here's the problem. None of those conditions describe Kendrick Lamar. None of them describe PG Lang. None of them describe TDE, and none of them describe the Interscope structure currently making sure the West Coast camp is fully resourced for whatever it wants to do. So what does that mean? It means Drake walked a playbook from a previous era into a war being fought under brand new rules against an opponent with equal or superior institutional muscle, who very deliberately decided to refuse to fight on the legal terrain at all. Did you catch that? Kendrick is not playing in the legal sandbox. He never agreed to. He never showed up to. He's been fighting this entire war in the cultural domain. Records, imagery, performance, meaning, the kind of art statement that resonates with audiences, not with judges. Drake, on the other hand, has spent 2 years trying to drag the fight into a courtroom, into a defamation theory, into a label grievance, into anything that turns a cultural battle into an administrative battle. And every single time he tries that conversion, he either loses ground or, like this week, produces another self-inflicted disaster. And the lesson, the actual lesson, is this. Legal infrastructure is not strategy. Legal infrastructure is a tool. The moment you start treating the tool as if it is the strategy, you start producing filings that hand your enemy a map. That's exactly what just happened. That's exactly what this story is. That's exactly why Kendrick has been so quiet. He doesn't need to talk. The other side is doing all the talking for him. In writing, on the public record. And the West Coast knows it. Kendrick knows it. The people around him know it. They've known it from day one. That's why throughout the whole arc of this feud, Kendrick has refused to engage on Drake's preferred turf.
He has refused to publicly engage with the defamation angle. He has refused to acknowledge the chart manipulation talk. He has refused to enter the legal venue at all. He has kept the fight where it was always supposed to be settled, in the cultural ear of the audience, in the rotation, in the festival sets, in the placements, in vault control, in body language, in silence used as a weapon. And by keeping the fight there, he has forced Drake to either follow him into terrain where Drake keeps losing or retreat into the legal terrain where Drake keeps blowing his own foot off. Pause. Let me ask you something. If you were Drake right now, would you keep filing, or would you just take the L and go quiet? Drop your answer below, because something tells me even the people around him are starting to ask that same question privately. And the answer is changing, slowly, but it is changing. Now, about the lawyers themselves. I'm not somebody who enjoys taking shots at attorneys. The OVO legal apparatus is staffed by serious professionals. I want to be fair about that. But the truth is, even serious professionals will eventually produce defective work when they are placed inside an institutional posture that is fundamentally reactive, fundamentally fast, and fundamentally exposed. That team has been operating under those 3 conditions for months now. Stack those 3 conditions on top of each other for 60 straight days, and you don't get careful drafting anymore. You get paragraphs that survive into a final filing because nobody had time to slow down. And the consequences are now sitting in front of the entire industry. Meanwhile, on the Kendrick side, completely different posture. They have not been reactive. They have not been fast. They have not been exposed. They have been patient, quiet, letting the other side move first, responding only when responses were strictly necessary. That is the posture you want a legal team to have when you are trying to win a long war. That is the posture that produces clean filings, careful language, and the ability to actually read what the opposition gives you and to extract value from it. 2 sides, 2 postures, 1 result. And it is showing up in the paperwork, in black and white. So now let me run the forecast, because I think 3 things are about to happen, and I want them on the record so we can come back to this exact video in a few weeks and check. Number 1, the OVO camp is about to attempt a corrective amendment, a clarifying motion, some kind of secondary instrument designed to narrow the unintended scope of the original filing. They are going to try to walk the language back. The problem? The moment you try to narrow language that has already been read by the other side, you confirm to the other side that the original language said exactly what they thought it said. So the corrective move doesn't repair the damage, it deepens it. That is the trap Drake is now sitting inside, and he doesn't even know it yet. By the time he figures out he is sitting in it, it'll already be too late to climb back out. Number 2. Within the next 60 days, the Kendrick Lamar camp is going to deploy at least one significant piece of content that sits squarely inside the newly mapped safe zone the filing accidentally created. And they will not brag about it. They will not point at the paperwork while they do it. They will act like the deployment is business as usual. But the deployment will land inside the exact territory Drake's own apparatus admitted on the public record it cannot effectively touch. That's the Kendrick move. Quiet, surgical, devastating. The kind of move you don't fully register until 2 weeks later when somebody finally connects the dots. And by the time you connect them, it's already too late to respond. Number 3, and this is the consequential one.
There is about to be a quiet, internal restructuring of the OVO legal apparatus. Not a public restructuring, not a press release, the kind of restructuring that happens when an institution finally admits the current pace cannot continue without producing more documents of the same caliber as the one we are discussing tonight. That kind of restructuring is what happens after a major institutional embarrassment. And by any honest measure, this filing is a major institutional embarrassment. So the restructuring is coming. The only real question is, does it arrive in time to stop the next filing from being even worse? Because I'm telling you right now, based on everything I'm watching, the next filing might be even more catastrophic than this one, and nobody inside the building is positioned to catch it. And while we're standing here, I'll tell you something else nobody else is saying. A second filing, completely separate from this one, has reportedly been circulating in private legal channels over the last 72 hours. I have not confirmed it, nobody has, but the whispers are loud. And if it surfaces the way this one did, the conversation we are having tonight is going to look like a warm-up. So bookmark this video, pin it, because in 3 weeks, this is the breakdown people are going to be sending each other when it all clicks. And listen, before I wrap, I want to put the broader frame on the table, because the Drake versus Kendrick story has, from the beginning, been a story about two very different theories of what a modern hip-hop empire is supposed to look like. Toronto's theory is institutional. It is about leverage. It is about deploying resources to control the conversation. It is about using the machinery around the artist to amplify what needs amplifying and bury what needs burying. Kendrick's theory is artistic. It is about the work, about the catalog, about the cultural footprint. It is about letting the music carry the weight that institutional machinery is supposed to carry for everybody else. And episode by episode, what this entire feud has demonstrated is that the Kendrick theory is the one that's winning. The institutional theory cannot defeat the artistic theory when the artistic theory is being executed at the level Kendrick is executing it. The filing this week, it's just the latest data point on a curve that's been bending the wrong direction for Drake for a very long time, and the people inside the building know it. Drake's camp, of course, will claim otherwise. They will point at streaming numbers, they will point at chart placements, they will point at the radio infrastructure, they will point at the international touring footprint, and they will argue with a straight face that their guy is still winning. But here's the catch. Streaming numbers, chart placements, radio infrastructure, touring, those are all downstream of the cultural conversation, and the cultural conversation belongs to Kendrick right now. It has for some time, and the longer Drake's apparatus tries to fight the cultural conversation with legal instruments, the more documents exactly like this one are going to slip out of the building and into the hands of people who actually know how to read them. That is the trajectory. That is the curve, and it is not bending back. It is not slowing down. It is only accelerating. One more thing the audience deserves to have on the table. The cultural memory of this feud is going to be written by moments exactly like this one. Not by the headline songs, not by the chart wars, not by the streaming numbers Drake's camp keeps shoving in our faces. The cultural memory is going to be written by the small, telling institutional moments where one side reveals exactly who they are under pressure.
And the institutional moment we are watching this week reveals very cleanly that the Drake apparatus is not built for the pace it is currently being asked to operate at. It reveals equally cleanly that the Kendrick apparatus is built for exactly this pace, because the Kendrick apparatus has never been trying to outrun anyone. It has been pacing itself, conserving energy, picking its moments, letting the other side burn itself out chasing a phantom. That is a structural advantage that does not get reversed by a corrective filing. That is a structural advantage that has to be changed by changing the entire posture of the operation. And right now, there is no public indication that Drake's machine is capable of that kind of change. And finally, this. Every label legal department, every management company, every artist apparatus that watches how the giants move, they are about to study this paperwork as a case file. They're going to study it the way pilots study a flight that almost went down, because what happened here is the kind of cautionary tale every major label legal team will incorporate into their training going forward. And the artist whose camp produced the cautionary tale? Drake. That's now part of the public record. That's now part of the historical archive. And the artist on the other side of that cautionary tale, the one who benefited without ever lifting a finger, is Kendrick Lamar. That asymmetry is going to follow both names for a long time, and it has nothing to do with charts. It has everything to do with how serious institutions evaluate which side of this war is actually the more competent operation. So that's where we are tonight. A legal filing tied to the Drake organization has, by its own language, handed an enormous chunk of strategic territory directly to the Kendrick Lamar camp. OVO is going to try to walk it back. The walking back is going to make it worse. Kendrick is going to quietly exploit the territory, and the entire institutional model Toronto has been running for over a decade is going to look, over the next 90 days, increasingly like a model that belongs to a previous era of the music business, not the one Kendrick has been building since the day Damn dropped. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop your read in the comments. Did Drake's side outsmart themselves into a corner this week? Or do you think there's somebody inside that operation who quietly wanted this exact filing to slip out? Do you think Kendrick is going to publicly point at the paragraph? Or do you think he's going to keep his mouth shut and exploit the territory without saying a word? And, most importantly, do you think Toronto survives the next 90 days without another self-inflicted disaster? Or are we about to be right back here next month talking about the next paragraph that should never have been written? Tell me, because the smartest analysts on this side of the platform read every single comment, and the conversation underneath this video shapes how the next chapter of this story actually moves. And if you made it this far, thank you, genuinely. You're the reason these breakdowns hit different. So go ahead, smash the like, hit subscribe, ring the bell, do all of it, because it actually matters. And if you want to know exactly how the West Coast camp has been quietly positioning Kendrick's next deployment window, and exactly why the people around Drake are reportedly already nervous about what's coming next, well, you're going to want to click the video on screen right now, because the next chapter of this story is already loaded, and it's aimed at the sixth god himself as we speak now.